Maybe.
Hova gets first blood. Stryker says something about honey by June.
I didn't do it.
It's this. Let's just unplug that. And GCM says FTP, rock and roll, baby. Let's do this. I'm gonna back the camera up off of us.
It's fine. It's fine. We're there.
Okay.
Framed, nice and tight. Yes. Good morning, indeed. It's Woke Wednesday, and there's forgiveness and not forgiveness in the air.
We're gonna talk about forgiveness this morning.
And and if on this one, you go ahead and scroll down to.
So, quick recap. On Monday, I made the case that there should be no forgiveness, and that is not an absolute position, but I'm prepared to make the argument that there is a line that cannot be crossed. And one of the reasons I made that argument on Monday and made those points on Monday is because Cameron and I have been having a conversation about when you open it up, when you let your big tent take back in the lost sheep and bring them back into the fold. And I argue the case that there's a point at which that's just no longer an option. Now, before you get started, and I want you to make your case, I do want to hit everybody with this piece of just blew my hilarious headline. Just randomly, this is something that is trending virally right now. A woman's loud and full body orgasm heard during the LA Philharmonic concert. This is hilarious. So apparently the story is that that's what one woman was probably thinking after she reportedly experienced a loud and full body orgasm during a recent performance of Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony by the LA Philharmonic at Walt Disney's Concert Hall, the LA Times reports. Everyone kind of turned to see what was going on. Molly Grant, who was sitting near the ecstatic woman, told the Times Sunday, "I saw the girl after it happened, and I assumed that she had an orgasm because she was heavily breathing and her partner was smiling and looking at her like in an effort not to shame her." She said, "It was quite beautiful." And there's an audio clip. And this is amusing. Why isn't it playing the audio?
Oh, that's.
I would have to say that's not exactly conclusive, but but I did find the story amusing. And even more amusing, also in attendance at the concert was British composer Magnus Fiennes, brother of actor Ralph Fiennes, who insisted it absolutely happened after social media erupted with doubtful claims of the authenticity of the clip. And there was a tweet from Fiennes as well.
Okay.
Went to see LA Phil play Thomas Sasades and Tchaikovsky fifth last night. A woman in the audience had a loud and full-body orgasm during the fifth second movement. The band politely carried on. Props to the LA Phil for bringing it on. So,
well, how many options do you have there, though? Like,
right. you hear the squeak, and the whole brass section is like, all right, boys, we're done here. Pack it up.
Okay.
And Stryker says it's like the Howard Stern bass speaker bit. If you guys haven't seen that, that is hilarious. But yeah, it's kind of like that, apparently.
I doubt it was like that. Past, you know what? No, we're not going there. We're just not doing it.
So, will you forgive me?
Yes. Yeah, you're. Yeah, you're forgiven. Okay, so I don't know what it looks.
Go ahead and set it up.
Gotcha. So what prompted this is I don't know if you guys caught the memo, but Chris and I are kind of really big nerds. And it's been difficult to be a nerd lately because Star Trek sucks. They bring back everything that kicked ass when we were kids, like the Terminator and the Predator, and then they make them suck.
And they fail.
Yes, exactly. Like with
no.
So
Peter Pan.
That's yeah. That's a totally separate thing.
Shame.
Okay. Yes.
Shame.
That's right. Kind of. Now, I grew up watching Star Trek with my dad, so there's a pretty deep emotional attachment to these things for me, especially since my dad has been gone for coming up on almost 2 years now. Paramount has been streaming Picard, and Picard has been Sir Patrick Stewart's vanity project. He basically said, yeah, I'll come back and I'll play the character, Jean-Luc Picard again, but we're going to make some changes. And because they figured, we're getting Sir Patrick Stewart to play Jean-Luc Picard, let the guy do whatever he wants. It'll be fine. And
it wasn't
It
fine.
was not fine. No, it was not fine. Season 1 of Picard was so bad, I did not watch season 2 of Picard. But then
season 1 of Picard was so bad, I didn't watch it.
Well, okay, anyhow, season 1 of Picard was so bad, I didn't watch season 2 of Picard. But there was, and I promise this is coming back around to forgiveness and the terms of forgiveness and so forth. There was a shakeup in the showrunner. And so season 3 of Picard said, you know what? We're just going to have somebody that actually gives a shit about this take it over. And we're going to give Patrick Stewart a little less creative control over the project. And hey, we're going to reunite as many living cast members as we possibly can in season 3 of Picard. And season 3 of Picard...
That's for you, Rob. That's for you.
And I'm here to say that season 3 of Picard was good. Like, it was legitimately good. There were themes of very intelligently woven, mind you, themes of intergenerational trauma and how a father's love, yes, I do mean a father's love, can save the day. Quite literally, how it ties into the conclusion of the series where fatherly love literally saves the day. And it addresses all this stuff about personal responsibility and how you deal with making complicated choices, shall we say. And How sometimes there is not a right answer. You have to do what you think is best in the moment and then deal with the fallout later that can cause you pain days, weeks, months, literal years later. And the only thing you can do is to deal with it, accept it, and try and forge a better world. And there was a diverse cast, but you know what they didn't do? They didn't preach about how diverse the cast was. It's amazing how well it works, how you could have the rainbow. As long as you don't shove it down my throat that you have the rainbow. And when you actually have something that respects the IP. Dave Cullen had a really good quote about this. There are some people that look down their nose at this and said, "Let's fan service." And Dave Cullen said, "I'd call that customer service in this case." Like,
right?
When you go see a Star Wars movie, what are you going to go see? You're going to go see archetypical stuff about good versus evil, and ironically enough, potentially even about spirituality versus technology, forgiveness and redemption, even with a little bit of space wizards who fight with laser swords and dogfight in space.
No, what I really needed was a feminist robot.
No, what I really needed...
Robotic feminism saves the day.
So, Sean Stryker, that is a fantastic in-joke right there, sir. So that's where we're at. So
shut up, Wesley.
And so all of this, just so that you understand, brings us to the point of at what point do you weigh things out? It's perfectly acceptable to say, for example, golly, Bud Light stabbed us all in the fucking back. I'm going to go out of my way to avoid Anheuser-Busch products for the rest of my life. Okay? If I'm on the beach and all they have is Land Shark, I'm not drinking beer on the beach that day. That just, oh well. However, at the same time, you have to reward the things that you want to see happen. So if I want, for example, as a big Star Trek fan, I don't want my Star Trek to suck. I want my Star Trek to be good. And if I turn my nose up at good Star Trek, I can't get mad if there's no more good Star Trek. And thus we come to the crux of the conversation that has been going on between Chris and I for a few weeks now, where what's required for forgiveness? What's required for penance? Because I would argue we cannot throw away the concept of forgiveness itself. Can't be done. Everything about what I'm going to refer to as the Western liberal Christian ethic revolves around concepts like tolerance and, yes, forgiveness. I mean, no forgiveness. There's a whole lot in our society that collapses. Let ye among you without sin cast the first stone. You know what I mean? However, there does have to be a point where some things are worse than others and require more penance than others. And there does have to be a point where maybe some things are not forgiven. And even if they're forgiven, they're not forgotten. Okay, we forgive you, but you know, like you reach a certain point where if somebody has multiple arrests for drugs, you don't give them a job at the pharmacy. It's just a stupid idea.
Right.
So
Stryker says Chuck's a huge boulder. I don't have any rocks immediately to hand, but I have one of these.
It's what is that, a bottle opener?
It is. Now. It's like cut a divot in it and let all the powder out, but no, that's a Maudus round.
Yeah, that's a ruin your day kind of round. So
yeah, I don't even have to hit you with that. If it gets close enough, it'll just take your arm with it. But the line.
Yes, please. And chat, please tell us where you think the line is.
And the line is a tricky thing. But part of the line has to do with not only the nature of the offense, but the nature of the offender. Like Cameron just mentioned, you got a repeat drug offender. Maybe you don't put him to work at the pharmaceutical counter ever again, no matter what. And so the Bud Light controversy, quite distinctly from the Star Trek situation, is one where you have a company that has an established brand, an established customer base, and they didn't just do something that customer base dislikes. They explicitly and directly targeted that customer base for attack. Essentially what they did is they committed treason. And like I mentioned on Monday, the lowest circle of hell is reserved for traitors and mutineers. And that is because this is something that psychiatrists, psychologists understand deeply. And you'll hear discussed when you've got somebody dealing with like a cheating partner, infidelity in a marriage. When a person, or in this case, a brand, which is a type of personality, is suddenly not what you believe them to be, that betrayal does not just call into question your ability to trust that person or that entity. Generally, it makes you, at a deep psychological level, begin to ask yourself, is anything I ever believed about this person correct? Is the fact that I was incorrect about the things I believed about this person a flaw in myself? It's not just that this is a bad person, but my judgment was so bad that I let this bad person fool my better resolve, fool my judgment. Now, I can no longer trust my judgment on anything. So suddenly I can no longer believe that anything I ever thought was true is. It compromises your ability not just to trust the brand or the person, but your ability to trust generally. That's why betrayal is such a huge thing. It doesn't just destroy the relationship between the betrayer and the betrayed. It destroys the ability of the betrayed to have relationships at all.
Yeah, and actually, have you ever, and this is not a thing most of us have experienced, but have you ever stomped on the brake and it didn't break?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll reorient your entire.
Yes. Or I stopped on the brake and just, hey, I'm not stopping. I'm sideways. All my wheels stopped.
No, that's not the same thing.
No, it's not. You're right. It's
I
not.
mean specifically when you hit the brake.
You expected an outcome to be the result of your action, and it was not.
So, in all seriousness, and I, it may seem kind of rambly, but I'm of the opinion, unless you are one of the grossest of offenders, there has to be some kind of path back. Because if there's not a path back, you don't want people to reach their fuck it point. Especially when people are beginning to, it all seems to be the same thing, like between Disney and the rest of Hollywood and social media and now Bud Light even, they're just bound and determined to trans your kids. It's bizarre, okay? And I gotta tell you, don't trans my kids, please, God, don't, because you need to try Jesus. I will throw hands. All right, don't trans my kids.
Just to be clear, this is one of the places where the line between forgivable and unforgivable is a bright neon line.
See, but everything.
You hurt my kid. That's beyond unforgivable. That's unsurvivable.
But everything's being dragged into that direction. So if we want things to come back from that direction, it has to be allowed to come back from that direction. So let's say Bud Light were to stop pandering, have you seen any of the pandering bullshit? Like, it's oh god, it's so cringy.
It's worse than that. It's not even pandering. They're trying to pander. They're trying to simultaneously pander without actually committing to the panderous statement. Like the most recent one is hey, here's a bunch of people in blue jeans and rain. You Bud Light drinking redneck shitbillies like blue jeans, right? Well, here's a bunch of people in blue jeans. But there's no statement, there's no commentary, there's no apology, there's just, hey, here's a bunch of white people in blue jeans, buy our beer. And no. I mean, let's be fair. I'm never going to buy Bud Light again. And that's got nothing to do with Dylan Mulvaney.
Okay, that's all fair enough. But, and I just, as a quick example, let's say the Bud Light's a publicly traded company. So let's say the board gets together, fires everybody involved in this, and issues a statement that says something along the lines of, this is a company that was started in America, and American values are going to be inherently part of the brand. So going forward, we will never betray that part of Bud Light's brand ever again. We get it. NASCAR and baseball and all of that built this company, and we thank our customers for it. Oh, this is the preferred beer of frat parties? Good. Thanks for paying our bills. Right? Say they did that. Would that be a start? Would that be good enough to go ahead and let them back in the fold, maybe on probation, for example? Say, okay, all right, you've performed the basic penance, but now you're still gonna have to do some work, because faith without works is dead. So, okay, you're trending in the right direction, and this is why I go back to Picard as an example. They filmed an entire series of a show. They threw away as much of the woke shit as they could. And then actually gave us something that the fans would want. So not only did they stop trying to give me what I didn't want, but they very deliberately went out of their way to give me what I want. So let's say they issue that statement.
Bud Light issues the statement.
Yeah, we're talking about Bud Light. They come out and they say, we fired everybody. We understand that NASCAR and frat boys are actually what pay our bills. And God, we're sorry.
It's got to start. I'll give you this. It's got to start with we fired everybody. Everybody involved is gone. Because without essentially you need to make a blood sacrifice. You need to atone for your sin. So this goes back to
most churches just have an offering plate now, buddy. Tithing is
clearly insufficient. But here's my case. What you have done is you have incurred a debt. That is what crime is. Crime is harm. Right? There is no crime unless you can show that murder was committed to a degree. Murder is the only crime. It is harm. All lesser crimes are to a degree murder. Theft is the taking of someone's property, which is a piece of the time that they've traded away to acquire that. It's a part of their life. You're taking their life from them. Right? So, the only way to atone for having caused harm is to make the victim whole, to repay the debt, to repair the property, to replace the damaged goods, to make them whole. That's why there's no coming back from murder, right? You cannot unmurder someone. With the question of treason and treachery, On the other side of that, you cannot reasonably expect that person or entity to not again betray you. That's kind of the crux of that question with betraying a trust, is you now are a person who betrays trusts. I can no longer trust that you won't do that again, no matter what you do. So for an entity like Bud Light, where it can be identified that there are specific people who were involved in committing the sin, and those people can be eliminated, those people can be offered up on the altar, as it were, then there's your blood sacrifice. That is actual atonement. And that's a legitimate mechanism to say it is not just that we promise we won't betray you again. It's that we are taking steps to remove the possibility of betrayal from our company. And we, Bud Light, did not betray you. We were also betrayed by these cancerous elements which we have had excised. So, given the extent of an apology to include the absolute elimination of everyone involved in the creative process of sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney, then you can talk forgiveness reasonably.
Well, that's pretty common. If somebody betrays, however you want to put it, one of the very first things that will be recommended is, how did the spouse meet the affair partner? Oh, they met him online? Well, then your spouse for a period of time needs to not be allowed to go online unsupervised. It's the only way to begin to repair the trust.
You're gonna have to delete that app, honey. That's a no-go.
Yeah, your Facebook privileges have been revoked. Let's just, there we go. So, however, the left has managed to give us a measuring stick for the other direction. Anybody that you see following these guidelines, is not yet ready for forgiveness. I am prepared to go there. Anybody still actively practicing? Because that's the thing. Yeah. They're actively practicing, and they think they're being morally superior, even though, and I'll say it again, it all seems to lead back to your kids, my kids, your kid, all of our kids. We can't just let them watch fucking Disney anymore.
Because the left doesn't have kids. They have your kids.
Ooh, anyhow. So, but y'all are going to love this, right? They gave us a guidebook. Anytime you see what I'm about to show you right here, you're dealing with somebody that is firmly in the enemy camp, either by choice or maybe by force, but whatever. That's where they're at. Can you flip it over? Okay, this is coming from, the source for this is the Hollywood Reporter, but y'all, this is great, okay? It's a culture war, and Hollywood is at one of the nexuses of those culture wars. So to qualify for Best Picture next year, these are called the Raise standards, by the way, as in raise up. Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. To qualify for a Best Picture next year, your film must meet 2 of the 4 standards. This is some commie shit right here. Standard A, on screen, the film must meet one of the following. At least one of the lead or significant supporting actors is from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. At least 30% of all actors in secondary and more minor roles are from an underrepresented group. The main storyline, theme, or narrative of the film is centered on an unrepresented group.
That's a lot of syllables. Let's just call them UG.
UG?
Underrepresented group. UG.
Okay, fair enough. So if I want to make a movie about Vikings, a historically accurate period piece about Vikings. And it is the best movie I've ever made because they're all white men. I can't even nominate my picture. I can't even nominate my movie for Best Picture, huh? Oh, okay. Sure. Okay. No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yep.
All right, because I actually have a fantastic answer for that. Just trust me here. Standard B, the team. The film must meet one of the following. At least two of the creative leadership positions and department heads, such as the director, cinematographer, or costume designer, are from underrepresented groups, and at least one of those must belong to an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. At least 6 other crew and technical positions, such as the first AD or script supervisor, are from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. At least 30% of the film's crew is from an underrepresented group. Hey, do you remember that time Alec Baldwin wanted to make a Western called Rust, and he hired a bunch of underrepresented people? You remember that, Chris?
Yeah, that worked out great, didn't it?
I made it for everybody except for the cinematographer that didn't get to go home.
Well, wasn't there also a DP that was shot?
Well, it might have been the DP that was shot. No, there was
the cinematographer died, and then somebody else was also shot.
It was the assistant director that was hit by shrapnel, I believe. Yeah. Bullet went through the camera, through the cinematographer, and winged the assistant director. It was a bad day, right? Okay.
Pretty good shot, though.
It's an impressive shot,
especially considering he didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, standard C. Well, the gunshot itself, Chris.
Of course.
The film must meet both criteria for standard C. The distribution or financing company has paid apprenticeships or internships for underrepresented groups. The production, distribution, and or financing company offers below-the-line skill development to the underrepresented. That means above the line and below the line is Hollywood speak. If something is above the line, it's a non-negotiable. If it's below the line, it's negotiable. So in other words, these companies have to pay extra if it's required in order to develop underrepresented groups. And then audience development. The film must have multiple in-house senior executives from underrepresented groups on the marketing, publicity, and or distribution teams. So in other words, of these 4 standards, to qualify for Best Picture, you've got to meet at least 2 of them. So everything has to be POC or female or gay or trans, and it has to be at least 30%. And when I say that this is commie shit, this is absolute top-down commie shit. Well, we don't care. Well,
this is a crime.
Well, yeah, look, we don't care what works. We're going to tell you what works. We are, and I shit you not, like, this is Mao saying, okay, we're just going to leap forward. This is Joseph Stalin saying, bullshit, we can totally be an industrial nation. We just have to be willing to let people starve for a couple of years.
Yeah,
Stalin was right.
This is Kim Il-sung saying, what do you mean drought? What do you mean the crops won't grow because it's a drought? We've got a whole ocean right there. Just water the fields.
Well, look.
Oh, that's still not working out for you, is it, North Korea?
Yeah, years later, still a problem. Still, you only need about 1,000 more years of rain to. But yeah, this is absolute commie shit, and why the commies have decided that, and I hope I've tied all this together, why the commies have decided that what they want to do is use culture to trans your kids, and that's their particular vector of attack. God, I don't know why, but it is the direction that they've decided to go. And the good things, and the good thing is, at least we've started to get angry and fight back because it is affecting our children. Like, the mama bear thing is real. Yeah, film sets are going to look like road crews. One person doing the work with 9 others watching them. And that's...
This being codified like this being made more official like this, it should come as no surprise to anyone. It certainly doesn't come as a surprise to me. This is something I've been talking about since before I left film school several years ago. As somebody that does films, I'm telling you guys, you can go look through want ads where they're hiring for crew, they're hiring for camera operators, for lighting technicians, for gaffers, any of that stuff. And oh, sorry, I just got a message from work that interrupted me. But go look through the want ads for film crew, and constantly you will see things like white guy need not apply. We're looking specifically for a camera operator who is minority, LGBTQ, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They will explicitly exclude straight white conservative men. In their hiring, right? In the want ads. To be clear, that is a crime. That is a federal crime that goes completely unprosecuted.
Look, and to be clear, the libertarian in me is actually, I'm going to say it, I'm okay with it. We discriminate anyway. Don't pretend like you don't. We all do. It's just now we have to pretend like we don't because of the law. And that's fine. If you want to discriminate against me because I'm a middle-aged white guy, you go right the fuck ahead, buddy.
And frankly, I appreciate knowing it ahead of time.
Oh yeah. Thanks for being honest. Like, for example, like if you don't give a shit about me and you don't want me to be your customer, I don't know, Bud Light, no problem. I just,
I'll just drink liquor.
It's quicker anyway. Wine is fine, brandy is dandy, but liquor's just plain quicker. Anyhow.
And yeah, Alex is correct. Hire who you want, but your product will suffer.
Well, the product has already suffered.
It has.
Because this is how all of these companies have operated for some time now. We're not going to hire the best. And I would even argue that you're starting to see these same types of practices affect, I don't know, have you noticed how like these banks keep teetering on the edge of collapse and keep having to gobble each other up so they don't collapse, and then the Fed has to get involved so they don't collapse, and it's all just kind of spooky? Hey, maybe if you want to practice a little ESG for your manager at McDonald's, that's not that big of a deal. But if you're going to have somebody that's responsible for billions of dollars of private citizens' money, yeah, maybe using diversity quotas to fill out your vice presidential suite is a terrible fucking plan. Maybe you should just hire the best and not worry about it. Just ask BuzzFeed. Just ask Vice News, Like,
yeah.
Just ask all that. No, they were diverse, y'all. It was fine. They were so diverse.
Now, Alex, you had a comment up here. The right used to just vote with our wallets quietly. Now we're competing with the left for who can cancel the best. I do not disagree with your statement, and I think I would like to have a long conversation with you about that as a premise.
Are we talking about a crossover?
We should talk about a crossover, and we should do that at the next earliest convenience. So let's get in that little group chat we've got after the show this morning and see if we can't put that together, because the thread that I think is worth pursuing out of that premise is that there comes a point. We're going to be talking about the sucker line. There's a line at which, there's a line that one crosses that is the line between I am sticking to my integrity and my principles, or on the other side of that line, I'm just a sucker who's being taken advantage of. Alinsky's rules for radicals flirt with that line to try and force you to become the sucker that everybody's taking advantage of. That's how they attack your principles, is they try to use your principled positions and integrity to as a battering ram to shove you over the line into suckerdom, where suddenly you are the 30% of citizens that are pulling the wagon for the other 70 to ride on your right along on your welfare droppings.
Actually, I would say that Alex knows exactly where that line is because he's an advocate for ballot harvesting.
That's a good point. And that's a good piece of that conversation to have.
I don't even mean that sarcastically. I just mean, like it. Yeah.
And Alex makes a solid argument for ballot harvesting. And the argument that he makes is these are the weapons that the enemy uses to defeat us. At some point, you must take up their weapons and turn them against them. At some point, fighting muskets with pitchforks must turn into acquiring the muskets from the enemy and turning them around. So let's go ahead and put a pin in it there, unless you got something else. We're already about 10 over.
No, just to punch it in, I really did enjoy Picard season 3. Like, if you're a Star Trek fan, give it a shot, ride it out. It looks like it's going to go off the rails, but it actually sticks the landing pretty well.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.